Cop Car has now got a new 318. Because of the exhaust ports and the configuration of the heads, the customer didn't want to go too serious with it, so we've just basically got standard truck heads, and if anyone knows truck heads, they have the water run through the intake, which is a good thing. So the engine's fairly standard, apart from a very small mild cam in it. We've just done 5 minutes of running the cam in. It's painted the original sort of factory orangey, hemi-orangey sort of red that they had on the 273s. The intake manifold, when it came to us, was aluminium. His motor's actually right behind you, sitting over there on the ground there. That was his old motor. But we found when we pulled the engine apart, because the engine was running really bad, and when we did a leak down test, which I'll have to go back and check all our specs on our leak down test, we had a few cylinders that were really poor on the leak down. So we decided when we rebuilt the engine, we were going to put new valves, valve springs, push rods, and everything. Obviously it's got forged pistons, the crank's been balanced, machined with all the rotating assembly. Very mild engine. It's got a Rollmaster timing set on it. It's got a brand new harmonic balancer, but it's set to 318 specs, not 273 specs like this had originally, even though it's got a cast iron water pump. So basically what we've done is we've just set it all up with mostly what he had, and now we've got it sort of running. The only thing is we've just done a conservative 5 minutes of running the cam in. Once that's run in, we've done about another 20 minutes of run-in time. Then it should be right to check oils and waters. Actually, we could probably check the oil now, just to see how that is. It's still full and still as clean as a whistle. So in the past, we used to build engines a lot different. Now when we build an engine, we sort of don't give you a choice. Now if you want an engine built, all the surfaces are machined. So your deck, your heads, obviously they're always machined. You don't get a choice when we rebuild one of these engines. We always put new valves in it, new springs, new retainers, because they've done 50-60 years worth of work. It's about time that they get replaced. When you don't machine your head surfaces, sometimes what can happen is you can have continuous replacements of head gaskets, blowing head gaskets all the time. It drives you nuts. So now we just machine all the head surfaces so we don't have to worry about that. One of the other things is I've had stud failures, like crank studs or crank bolts break, right? So they haven't broken when I've installed them, but for some strange reason they've shattered into little pieces halfway down a bolt, and while the engine's been running at high RPM. So another one of the things that I've had go wrong is I've had rod bolts break. I've had all sorts of things break in the past. So now we build an engine, we put all new rod bolts, we put all new crank studs in there. Now we go crank studs. A lot of people would say that's overkill, but a little bit more extra clamping force, and then a line bore in the engine means that the crank's held in nice and tight. The chance of the crank moving around is unlikely. If you want an engine built by us and you want it done for $40, we're not the guys for you. So in other words, if we're going to build an engine, we're going to build it properly or not at all. So that's simple as that.
There's just too many things that can go wrong.
Yeah, and if I put an engine together with second-hand bolts and the engine fails, you're going to come up to me and say, well, my engine failed, I want it fixed under warranty. So I need to be able to cover warranty issues, so I need to be able to warrant that I put good quality bolts in it so I don't have any problems. Yeah, we've checked the timing. I've just done it by ear, and fortunate enough it was spot on, so we got 10 degrees of timing.
10 degrees of timing after what happened originally. How did you give your wife a heart attack?
Oh.
And all the nasty words that came out of my mouth as I was running for the hills and was winding my eyebrows.
You panic. This sometimes happens. Look, normally I use my my top dead center whistle and I spin the engine over until it whistles. This time I thought I'd just go by the 50-50 shot and just get it up to top dead center and guess whether it was top dead centre or bottom dead centre. Well, guess what? We put it in, it was bottom dead centre.
Guess what? I'm sure he went, oh, Amy will be filming this. I'm going to put it in the bottom dead centre and listen to her scream.
Well, it made an awesome backfire.
Yeah.
And I realised straight away that we were out by 180 degrees, so I pulled the distributor out, flipped the rotor button around, put it back in, turned it over. I could feel, or I could hear, that the engine was a little bit retarded on timing, so I whacked a bit of timing into it just by ear, and we got it, funnily enough, spot on just by ear, and fired it up and run the cam in. So the initial run-in, it was a bit smoky. There was a lot of smoke coming off the extractors and stuff like that, and there was a little bit of coolant left in the exhaust, so there was a lot of white smoke coming out the back, but after that burnt away, it's as clean as a whistle now, so we're all good. So now all we've got to do, we've done 5 minutes of running the cam in, and we've just let it cool down a little bit, so we're going to fire it up again, run the last 20 minutes, and then once we've done that, then we can take her for a drive and see how she drives. So rightio. We've just finished building the engine in the VC Valiant Cop Car, but we've had a bit of an issue with it. I'll go through it. It's the first time ever in all my years of building engines that I've had a camshaft failure during running. So what we did is we took all the lifters out and the camshaft back out and inspected it. We had to totally pull the engine apart and wash all the internals, because the engine was impregnated with all little bits of camshaft and lifter residue. While it was running in, it just didn't sound right running in. So after we ran the cam in, did some tuning adjustments and took it for a drive with the gas analyzer on it just to get the air-fuel ratio correct. But as we were driving it, I noticed that the car was ticking a little bit, and the ticking was progressively getting louder, and that's never a good thing to hear with a brand new engine. So basically what we did is we pulled back here to the factory, pulled the rock covers off, cleaned all the push rods, and put a paint line on each push rod. Started the car up, and I said, right out, shut it down. And basically there was some of the push rods weren't spinning, and the ones that were spinning weren't spinning very well. What we did find when we pulled all the lifters out is we found some of the lifters were rotating, some of them had rotated and then decided to stop rotating. So my immediate assumption is we had a jam up in a lifter or something like that. So, but when we went to pull the lifters out, they all pulled out.
So we snuck them out with the heads on.
Yeah.
So
we snuck them out.
And a lot of swearing.
Getting them out was easy, but they came out with ease. There was no issue with them locked in. The only one that we had that was really badly locked, just wait there, I'll grab this, was
number one
exhaust. Look at that.
That's our tick.
Now, we had them hardness tested. This one come up as 37. So minimum they need to be is between 53 and 58 is what you'd like. Harder the better. This come up as 37, but it has been heat affected. As you can see, the the yellow color, it is heat affected. So,
but it's worn through that much that we have a hole, which means that it ain't gonna do what it's supposed to do. It's always
it's a leak down. So that and realistically speaking, we're hearing on the internet everywhere, people are having major issues with camshafts. Now this is another one that, if I can get it out.
Here comes the swearing.
I'll just grab a magnet. Do it the easy way, Shane. So, anyway, pull it out. Sorry, it's got a bit of metal on it. You want to clean that off, Big Al? So, you can see that has rotated. See the edge? So, what's made it stop rotating?
Yeah, what's made it stop rotating?
That's the question. So, the ones that were sort of, as you can see here.
In the box. So these are.
And this one was just about to go, but you can see this one had started to was rotating as well, and then it's decided not to rotate. Now, when you run your fingernail across the top there, it's very rough, textured sort of finish on. That's another one. That's been rotating and then stopped rotating. Now we tested, see the little pin marks, if you can focus right in that close.
Yep.
That's to test the hardness of the lifters. All these lifters are soft. They're too soft.
So they did
They're a
run
little
in
bit,
and 20 Ks, pretty much.
they're a slight bit, if anyone understands metallurgy, they're slightly harder than a stainless steel spoon. So, in reality, not very good. Now, I'm not going to bag the company that made these lifters, but unfortunately in Australia, the way the rules work here, all they can do is give me my money back.
We have to send them back, pay for postage, and we get a refund on the part because the part has failed.
Now, we've lost 40 hours in this engine, pulling it all apart, cleaning all the inside of it out to make sure there's no material on. And as you can see on the back of the engine here, I've got a filter mag on it to make sure that no metal goes through the engine. So the filter mag, they're a good thing to do if you ever have this thing happen with your camshaft. You can run a filter mag and it'll filter out any particles out of the engine. Also too, we're going to test the engine oil to make sure that there was enough zinc in the engine oil as well, because it's just very interesting that we've had a cam failure. But definitely the lifters were soft, but normally even with a lifter that's a little bit soft, you don't usually get a cam failure on so early, you know.
So to ensure that we didn't have lifter bores that were incorrect at an incorrect angle or something, what we've done is we've taken the core motor, the 318 that we've replaced with this one, and we've taken the cam and the lifters out of that one after we tested it in the other motor to make sure it was still spinning.
Yep.
Right? Taken it out, put it into this motor,
first,
made sure that they were spinning.
But first we tested his original engine, marked on the lifter, put a little tiny bit of load with a push rod on it, and then just spun the camshaft around to make sure that the lifter was spinning.
Which it did.
So, because we were told that possibly there's an alignment issue with your lifter bores. So we fitted that camshaft, the old camshaft out of the old engine, into this engine, and rotated it with an old lifter, well, with a series of old lifters in the key spots where the camshaft failed, just to make sure and ensure that there isn't a lifter bore issue, right?
Which there wasn't, because each lifter spun like it did in the core engine.
That's right.
So to stop us from perhaps getting another bad set of lifters, we've changed brand. So we've gone away from an American brand and we've gone to an Aussie brand.
Now, people are going to say, oh, but they're all made in the same factory. Well, yes and no. The camshafts, from what I understand, are all made in Turkey, all the core camshafts. But at least this camshaft is ground here in Australia. So we've, in this engine in particular, we've upped the compression, so it's got forged pistons in it now, flat top pistons. We've also, as you can see, it's got a 4-barrel and a Holly carb. But also, what we've done is we've used a 340 cam, which I like to use in these engines because they have a good spread of bottom mid-range sort of power. And when you've got tiny little cylinder heads, it's useless putting a cam in that's for top end when the heads just won't fly top end. So
then we've got the new cam and we've put that in and run the same tests as well. We've put it in with the new lifters.
But what we've done is we've tested the new camshaft in this engine and his old engine to make sure in the key spots where all this crap's gone wrong that there's not a lifter bore issue again. Now you pull the dipstick out, the dipstick's like clean as a whistle. But at the same time, we don't want this to happen again after spending 40 hours of work pulling the engine apart and cleaning it, and then putting it all back together.
And the manufacturers of this new cam and lifter have been very accommodating after hearing what has happened and have hardness checked their lifters for us.
Before we put them in the engine.
And they pass.
And I went down because it's always good to learn something new. So nobody's an expert. So basically
everything.
what I did is I went down to Crow Cams and I inspected how they do things there, and they showed me where their lifters come from, showed me where their camshafts come from, and answered a few questions about camshafts that I didn't understand, and they were fantastic. They were accommodating, and they helped me out a lot with this engine.
Big shout out to Lindsay down there for
Yeah.
being patient with us and going through everything and understanding what we were going through.
So a hot tip, if you're ever after a good quality camshaft, go to Crow Cams, and if you've got any questions about camshafts or running in or anything like that, they'll gladly help you. It's with them. It's not just selling you a camshaft. They'll give you all the information you need to know about them as well. So
we're going to take this car on a little bit of a test drive.
Yep.
Yes, and see how she runs. So we've run this cam in, run
I
those
have already
lifters
been
in,
for a test drive,
and we'll take it for another one just to
Yep.
make sure before we hand it back to the client. And it should be ready for his daughter's wedding.
Yes.
Woohoo.
Which I promised him it was going to be ready for, and
It was a bit of a
it
shock.
was a bit of an issue. So we had, while we had the camshaft out, we took the camshaft down to Charlie Saliba's, and Charlie did all the hardness testing on the old lifters and said, yeah, they're too soft. And he showed me some old second-hand GM lifters, and he showed me how hard they are, and wow, what a difference. It was a massive difference. And look, you can't deny it. Charlie knows his stuff, and he's an expert, and he basically said the camshaft was toast, or the lifters were toast, they're just too soft. And unfortunately, while we were running it in, they failed.
Now, we've been having a lot of issues with lifters, but not just these lifters. We've been having issues with the hydraulic roller lifters.
Yeah, and when you're
well.
spending $2,800 on a set of lifters, you'd expect them to be complete. You wouldn't expect a set of lifters to come all the way across the ocean and be missing parts internally in the lifters, and that is absolutely
This
ridiculous.
413 we were building for this New Yorker, luckily you picked it up before we finished assembling it.
Well, I went to adjust the push rod, and I went, why is this push rod sitting down 5 mil lower than all the rest? And sure enough, pulled the lifters out and inspected them, and I'd obviously had them soaking in oil, so they were full of oil, so I had to wash all the oil out. And when I tipped the lifter upside down, the little plunger that sits where the push rod locates into just fell to the bottom, and then flipped it up the other way and it fell to the top. And it's just like, it's missing the spring.
So two lifters had to go back and get replaced under warranty all the way to the States.
And also, of course, we've had to pay for the postage to get them back over there.
And it's just,
It's a real hard, well, when you're building engines for customers and you're trying to make a little bit of a dollar, and then something like this happens, and everyone that knows me, when we build an engine, as with this engine, new valves, new valve springs, new retainers, engine is properly balanced, line hone the block, deck all the all the head surfaces, deck the block surfaces to maintain that we've got a correct seal, so there's no issues. So we don't use second-hand cams, we don't use second-hand pistons, we just don't do that. Everything is new, all the bolts are new. We don't build an engine unless it's got a stud kit in the crank. We don't build an engine unless it's got new rod bolts, at least minimum. Even with something as mild as what this is, we just don't cut corners, because the stuff's done 50 years worth of work, and 50 years worth of work, if something goes wrong, it's on the engine builder.
But unfortunately, we can't guarantee new parts when the company that manufactures them themselves won't guarantee them.
I'm cruising down the road in the VC Cop Car. Well, what can we say? It's a bloody nice car to drive. But we've had our share of issues with this engine, with the camshaft failing, but now we've got the new camshaft in it. Well, it's a different animal now. She drives quite nicely. So Camshaft grind is very similar to the grind that we had before, but these lifters are a little bit different. There's a few little characteristic differences with the way the lifters behave compared to the other lifters, but considering that the other lifters failed, well, this is a lot better, and having an Australian made cam in an Australian made car is pretty cool, I reckon. But she drives nice, she's got plenty of power, she's nice and smooth on the road, so can't complain about that. So as a review, what can I say? It's mile 318 with forged pistons, so we've got a good base for the engine, so being forged pistons, factory rods, but they're good, strong, high quality rods. We've got a good cast crank in it. It's been line honed, balanced. The heads are 318 truck heads, so they've got quite a big plug hole, and unfortunately twice setting the engine up, and we had to rotate the engine around and do a few different things to prime it with oil and stuff like that. Might have accidentally put it in 180 out, and of all chances to do it twice in both the cam builds was pretty funny. But because they've got such a big plug, they're like a early Ford spark plug, they're quite big on the base. My top dead center whistle won't work, so and you can't put your thumb in the hole because your thumb's not big enough. So we rotated the engine around and realised it was wrong, but just did a 180 swap on the distributor, which is fairly easy to do, and we were back on the road. But the car drives nice, idle's beautiful, it's got plenty of power, good poke, good cruiser, good all-round street car, and it'll be ready for his daughter's wedding. So what can I say? Great.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click like and leave a comment below. If you want to see more videos like this one, subscribe and click the notification bell so that it lets you know when we've popped up a new video. And if you reckon the merch that the crew at Belly Grunt's wearing is pretty cool and would like to get some for yourself, then click on the link in the description. See you next time.